My cousin Lu Ruyan has liked to snatch my things since childhood, just like how my mother and my aunt used to vie with each other. The grudges of the previous generation, instigated constantly by my aunt, accumulated and passed on to the next generation. Lu Ruyan always tried to outdo me in everything. However, in terms of beauty, academic performance and figure, she was inferior to me in every aspect. At the age of 18, Lu Ruyan was determined to have plastic surgery. She had her nose augmented, eyes widened and received Botox injections. Spending hundreds of thousands of yuan, she finally transformed into an internet celebrity beauty. She considered herself prettier than me. Whenever there was a boy who liked me, she would surely try to take him away, in order to prove that she was more charming than me. In fact, the boys she wanted to snatch were not the ones I liked. Sometimes when I was annoyed by her, I would deliberately talk to boys I didn't like, making her mistakenly think that I had a crush on someone. After graduating from high school, both Lu Ruyan and I attended university at university name. I got into a top-tier university, while she entered a third-tier college. For this reason, she became jealous again and often wandered around my school, acting like a green tea girl, disturbing the boys around me. I was extremely annoyed and deliberately got close to a hooligan from the streets. She actually went to flirt with the hooligan and suffered a great deal. Later, she dared not snatch my boyfriends anymore. After graduating from university, I brought my boyfriend Suzuki home. Lu Ruyan came to my house to show off her new bracelet. Recently, she had been doing live streaming and becoming an internet celebrity, and seemingly already had 200,000 followers. Both she and my aunt thought she had become famous and would become a big star in the future. They often came to show off in front of my mother. When they saw the handsome and star-like Suzuki and learned that he was my boyfriend, Lu Ruyan's eyes lit up. She greeted him affectionately, "Brother Mu," using the soft, high-pitched voice commonly used by Douyin female anchors. Presumably, it was a habit in their family. Whenever they saw a man, they would use that voice. And calling him Brother Mu, Suzuki, who worked in programming, immediately frowned. "How old are you?" Lu Ruyan coquettishly said. "I'm 23, a few months younger than cousin." "I'm also 23. Is it appropriate for you to call me brother?" Suzuki said. "Am I that old?" Lu Ruyan quickly said. "That's not what I meant." "Then what do you mean? You say I'm old as soon as we meet. Don't you welcome me?" Suzuki was still brooding. Lu Ruyan was left speechless. I secretly laughed beside him and gently nudged Suzuki's shoulder, telling him to stop while he was ahead. During the meal, my aunt started to introduce Lu Ruyan's career again, talking about how many followers she had gained, how much an advertisement cost, and how high her income was. Then she turned to me and asked, "Qingqing, have you found a job? How much is your monthly salary?" My mother looked uncomfortable. Suzuki put down his chopsticks and said, "Qingqing hasn't found a job yet for the time being. But don't worry, everyone. I have a monthly salary of 20,000 yuan. And my year-end bonus is also over 100,000 yuan. I can easily support her." Touched, I nudged his shoulder and said in a coquettish voice, "Darling, I don't want to work. Working is so tiring." Suzuki held my hand and said, "Don't worry. I'll get promoted and raise my salary in the future. I'll work hard to make money and support you for a lifetime." My aunt and Lu Ruyan felt embarrassed. These two had always believed that marrying well is better than working well. If I said I had found a job, they would probably look down on it. But if I found a wealthy golden bachelor, and didn't need to work for a lifetime, they would surely be extremely angry. "Love you, darling," I said to Suzuki in a sweet voice. Throughout the meal, Suzuki served me food and refilled my bowl, while I was picky and dissatisfied about everything. Suzuki remained good-tempered from beginning to end and let me do as I pleased. Lu Ruyan was so jealous that her eyes almost turned red. A good-tempered, young and handsome man who let me have my way. It was no wonder she was jealous. After the meal, Lu Ruyan forcefully asked for Suzuki's phone number. Suzuki looked at me, and I nodded in agreement, so he reluctantly added Lu Ruyan. In the evening, Suzuki showed me his phone. In the chat interface, Lu Ruyan was subtly saying that I was too delicate and difficult. She claimed to be a tough girl who could handle everything alone. "She's speaking ill of you," I smiled. "Whatever. She's always like that," Suzuki replied to her. "Qingqing has me to dote on her. She can be as delicate as she wants. You don't have a boyfriend and no one to love you, so of course you have to handle everything alone." After reading Suzuki's reply, I laughed heartily. Suzuki moved closer to me and said with a smile, "Did I perform well?" I nodded. "Then could you put in a good word for me in front of your parents?" I let go of him and sat on the edge of the bed. "We'll see," I said. Suzuki was slightly dissatisfied but had no way to change it. He got up, took out his laptop from the suitcase, and continued to write programs. I sat cross-legged on the bed, playing with my phone. I opened WeChat and saw hundreds of messages in the family group. My aunt was very active in the group, soliciting sponsorship for Lu Ruyan. While soliciting, she was showing off her daughter's fame and high income. There was an uncle in the group who was doing well in business. Uncle name was enthusiastic recently, and the relatives in the group were relatively active. The relatives flattered perfunctorily, saying that Lu Ruyan would become a big star in the future. My aunt was extremely proud and blatantly asked everyone to give Lu Ruyan a tip. Just as I was about to quietly leave the group, my aunt suddenly at me, "Ching, your boyfriend earns more than 20,000 yuan a month. Why don't you show some support for your cousin?" I asked my aunt how she wanted me to show support. My aunt replied, "When the man visits for the first time, he should at least do something. With a monthly salary of 20,000 yuan, a tip of 10,000 yuan would be appropriate." I was surprised that my aunt was so brazen. She actually had the nerve to ask Suzuki, who had just met her, to tip 10,000 yuan. I didn't directly refuse but looked up and asked Suzuki, "Brother Mu, my aunt wants you to tip 10,000 yuan to Lu Ruyan." Suzuki was vigorously coding. Hearing this, he was shocked and looked up. "Your aunt wants me to tip 10,000 yuan? Where does she get the nerve?" I shrug. "I'm used to it. Since I was a child, my aunt has been asking for things as if it were natural. Because my aunt was the younger one and was doted on by my grandparents, she had gotten used to asking her older sister for things. Lu Ruyan was exactly the same. "Give me the phone." Suzuki furrowed his handsome eyebrows. I handed the phone to Suzuki. Suzuki typed a long message and then returned the phone to me. I took it and looked, then laughed and rolled on the bed. "Aunt, hello. I'm Suzuki, Ching's boyfriend. I heard that you asked me to tip 10,000 yuan to Lu Ruyan and also asked other relatives to tip. We are very willing to help Lu Ruyan get good statistics. However, for tipping there will be a commission. The handling fee is probably around 20%. If I tip 10,000 yuan, you'll have to pay me 12,000 yuan. For Ching's sake, I'll give you a discount. The handling fee will only be 10. You can just give me 11,000 yuan. After Suzuki sent this message, the family group fell into silence. After a while, the busy uncle appeared and said, "Ching's boyfriend is right. We're all relatives and should help each other. If Ruyan wants data, it's our duty. So like Ching's boyfriend, we'll charge a 10 handling fee. Ruyan's mom, how much do you want us to brush?" One after another, voices of agreement emerged in the family group. Moments later, my aunt fumed. "We're all relatives. How can you have the nerve to ask for a handling fee? Ching, you're sowing discord. You can't stand to see us do well." Just as I was about to respond, my mom chimed in, "We're all relatives. How can you have the nerve to ask for a tip from others? Suzuki just came to our house and you actually asked for a 10,000 yuan tip. Your face is thicker than the city wall." That message was from Suzuki. Why blame Ching? So what if you're an internet celebrity? If you've made money, why not share it with the relatives? In terms of protecting her own, my mom was never outdone by anyone. Eventually, my aunt was defeated and pretended to be silent, no longer speaking. I couldn't stop laughing. Suzuki tapped on the keyboard for a while, then leaned over and said, "Honey, this part-time job program is almost done. We can earn 30,000 yuan. Then I'll buy you a bag." He had indeed performed well. I happily held his face, rubbed it and praised him. "You're amazing." Then I gently exhaled in his ear and said, "Thank you." The next day when I woke up, I sent a message to Suzuki. He immediately walked out of the adjacent room, knocked on the door in a showy way, and then entered the room and said, "Honey, you're awake." He held the phone in front of me and like showing off a treasure complained, "Last night at midnight Lu Ruyan sent me a message." I immediately became interested and took the phone to look through it. "Brother Mu, do you know that yesterday Ching in the family group slandered me and my mom in your name?" Behind this there was a screenshot of my mom's message in the family group. Lu Ruyan's words were much angrier than yesterday. After all, we had turned the free tip into a paid one, truly blocking her path to making money. I raised my eyebrows. This person probably thought that I was speaking in Suzuki's name. I was a bit angry. I continued to scroll down and was then completely amused by Suzuki's words and laughed and rolled on the bed. "Don't call me brother. Can't you understand human language?" Lu Ruyan sent a crying and shocked emoji, seemingly not understanding why. After she had said so much, Suzuki focused on the word brother. "Look at what time it is. Waking someone up in the middle of the night. Where's your upbringing?" Lu Ruyan said pitifully, "I just finished my live broadcast. Ching doesn't need to work, but I often do live broadcasts until midnight. It's so hard. What does your hardship have to do with me? I didn't ask you to do live broadcasts. Just because you're hardworking, you have to disturb my sleep in the middle of the night." He added, "I get it. You feel hard done by and want to transfer your pain to me. You deliberately disturb my rest in the middle of the night. You're so vicious." Ha ha ha. When I saw Suzuki call her vicious, my stomach hurt from laughing. Presumably, Lu Ruyan was also left speechless by Suzuki's outburst. She was somewhat smart and forcefully redirected the topic to complaining, saying that I was the vicious one, deliberately ruining her image among the relatives. That message was indeed sent by me using Ching's phone. After all, I haven't joined your family group yet. If you're not satisfied when Ching wakes up, I'll ask her to add me to the family group and send it again. After that, Lu Ruyan didn't reply. I laughed and said, "She must be so angry that she couldn't sleep all night." Suzuki leaned close to me and said, "Honey, did I perform well?" I nodded. Suzuki Sertan Ed. "Then can I mention marriage to your parents?" "No," I blinked. "It's still early." "Oh." He sat on the edge of the bed, looking as dejected as a dog. But a second later, he perked up again. By the way, Ching, add me to the family group. I'll send that message again to clear your name. I thought it made sense. We couldn't let people misunderstand. So I asked my dad, the group administrator, to add him to the family group. As soon as Suzuki joined, my dad introduced his identity in the group. As soon as the relatives heard that Suzuki was my boyfriend, they came out to greet him one after another. Suzuki greeted them politely, and then sent a 10,000 yuan red envelope. Hello all uncles and aunts. It's the first time we meet. This is just a small token of my appreciation. I hope you'll take care of me in the future. My aunt said that since I earned 20,000 yuan, I should spend 10,000 yuan to show my sincerity. Think so too. This 10,000 yuan red envelope is for everyone. The family group of more than 30 people immediately erupted. My mom rushed from the living room to the door of my room and knocked loudly. Suzuki quickly opened the door. My mom was anxious. Xiaolin, why did you send a 10,000 yuan red envelope? It's too much. My dad also came over and said, when the son-in-law visits for the first time, he only needs to give a gift to the in-laws. You don't need to care about others. Suzuki smiled and said, don't worry about that. Uncle and aunt, hurry up and grab the red envelope. Otherwise, it'll be gone. Right. We can't let others take advantage, especially Li Chuanmei's family. My mom took out her phone to grab the red envelope. I got 1,000 yuan, my mom exclaimed. My dad said happily, I also got 1,000 yuan. My mom shrieked. My parents' incomes were not low. My mom could casually lose thousands of yuan in a night of mahjong. I didn't know why, but grabbing a red envelope made them as happy as if they had won the lottery. Well, when I grab red envelopes with my girlfriends, getting 5 yuan from a 10 yuan red envelope can make me happy all day. Maybe it's genetic. Wait, I actually got 2,000 yuan. I got the biggest red envelope. Instantly, I joined my parents in their excited celebration. I might not be that happy if I received a 20,000 yuan bag, but getting a 2,000 yuan red envelope made me almost crazy with joy. How much did Li Chuanmei's family get? My mom was still brooding and opened the ranking. Then she beamed with joy. Ha, Li Chuanmei only got 1 jiao. Lu Ruyan got 5 jiao. 1 jiao and 5 jiao were not very harmful but extremely insulting. I immediately sensed something was wrong. For a 10,000 yuan red envelope shared among 35 people, how could they only get 1 jiao or 5 jiao while others got several hundred? I looked at Suzuki suspiciously. What's wrong? Suzuki looked pure and innocent. You didn't use a red envelope grabbing program, did you? I asked. How could I? He said with a smile. It's just that their luck is bad. Damn it. I suspected he was cheating but I couldn't find any evidence. However, it was so satisfying. My aunt asked Suzuki to give a 10,000 yuan gift when they first met. Suzuki really did it, but in the end my aunt and her family only got a few jiao. It was a typical case of trying to steal a chicken but losing a handful of rice. Our family laughed until we almost died. Suzuki lowered his head and sent another message in the group to clarify that the message last night was sent by him through my phone. He sincerely told the story of Lu Ruyan coming to complain to him in the middle of the night, and then promised that if they were not satisfied, the handling fee could be halved again. That was a real slap in the face. If I were my aunt and Lu Ruyan, I'm afraid I could only dig a Barbie castle with my toes. The relatives praised Suzuki for being generous and kind-hearted. Although the relatives hadn't even met Suzuki in person, they had an extremely good impression of him. After my excitement subsided, I gradually realized something was wrong. I was being tricked. I had only wanted to bring him back to meet my parents and that was it. Who knew that now he had been added to the family group and the relatives had a good impression of him? Wasn't this equivalent to meeting the entire family? I held my phone and fell into deep thought. Sure enough, not long after, the relatives called one after another to praise Suzuki and ask when we were going to get married. My grandparents even insisted on having a video call. My parents, influenced by a mere 2,000 yuan red envelope, seemed to have lost their minds and actually forced me to have a video call. I was in a difficult situation and could only bite the bullet and introduce Suzuki to the family. I had really lost a great deal. The crisis escalated further. In the evening, my grandparents invited Suzuki to visit and organized a family gathering. The close relatives of both families were invited. Suzuki sighed behind me. Ching, it's like this now. If we don't get married, it'll be hard to end this. I glared at him fiercely. Dream on. We've only been officially dating for half a year. How can we get married so quickly? Besides, I'm only 23, a beautiful young woman. It's not appropriate to get married at such a young age. My ideal age for marriage is 27. In the evening, we went to my grandparents' small villa. My uncle's family and my grandmother's family were all there. My uncle ran a company, and my aunt's husband worked under him through my mom's connections. My aunt's husband greeted us with a smile first. After entering the door, my eyes fell on my aunt and Lu Ruyan sitting on the sofa. When they saw me, both of them had a sullen face and snorted, ignoring me. My grandmother frowned slightly when she saw this. My maternal grandmother, who doted on my aunt, tried to smooth things over. Ching, Suzuki, come and meet your aunt. You met her yesterday. I glanced at my aunt and Lu Ruyan indifferently and then turned to talk to my cousin. Over the years, because my maternal grandparents doted on my aunt, I was closer to my paternal relatives. My maternal grandmother looked very unhappy. Ching, you're so old and still not dongshi. Lu Ruyan slipped to my maternal grandmother's side and took her arm, acting coquettishly. Grandma, don't scold cousin. I rolled my eyes. My maternal grandmother said, yesterday, Ching sent random messages in the group, making everyone look bad. Fortunately, Suzuki is sensible and took the blame for you. Blaming me again. I got angry immediately. Suzuki grabbed my wrist and walked up to my maternal grandmother with a smile. Nice to meet you, Grandma. My grandmother looked at Suzuki with a smile. Suzuki said sincerely, yesterday's message was sent by me. I really thought that my aunt and Rian wanted everyone to help with the data, so I proposed a discounted handling fee. Pausing for a moment, he asked in confusion, did I misunderstand? Is my aunt asking for money from everyone and not planning to pay it back? My grandmother was suddenly at a loss for words. The atmosphere was awkward. My aunt's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. She accused Suzuki. You're a junior and haven't even married Ching yet. How can you talk to your elders like this? I walked over and said, Aunt, it's inappropriate for you to ask for tips in the group. My mom agreed. My grandmother, who was partial to my aunt, said, we're all family. Supporting our business should be a given. My aunt and Lu Ruyan showed smug expressions. Just as my mom and I were about to argue, Suzuki waved at me and leaned close to my grandmother. Grandma, what my aunt said is right. We're all family and should support Ruyan's business. He took out his phone and opened Lu Ruyan's Douyin video. Grandma, how much do you think is appropriate for a tip? I'll definitely contribute. Suzuki was so sensible. My grandmother's expression softened. She said to everyone, since Suzuki is willing to contribute, the others should also show their support. Lu Ruyan said in surprise, thank you, Grandma. My mom's face changed drastically. The others looked at each other in dismay. My aunt quickly said, let's do it according to income. Suzuki contributes 10,000 yuan. My sister and brother-in-law each contribute 30,000 yuan, and the others. Everyone looked at her speechlessly. She really dared to ask for such an amount. It's settled then, my grandmother said, nodding while staring at Suzuki's phone screen. Before she could finish speaking, her face changed drastically. She stood up abruptly and said, Lu Ruyan, what are you live broadcasting? The smiles on my aunt's and Lu Ruyan's faces froze. My grandmother glared at Lu Ruyan, gritted her teeth and pointed at her. Shameless thing. How can you have the nerve to ask relatives for tips? She walked over angrily and grabbed Lu Ruyan's hair. In the future, you're not allowed to broadcast such embarrassing things anymore. My mom and I looked at each other in confusion, not understanding why my grandmother's attitude had suddenly changed. Suzuki calmly walked up to me. I grabbed his phone. Show me the video quickly. He refused and whispered in my ear. Announce to everyone later that you'll marry me in the future, and I'll show you the video. What a scheming person. Why didn't I notice how devious he was before? My face turned slightly red. I didn't want to agree, but my curiosity was killing me. Helplessly, I nodded and said, okay. Suzuki smiled slightly and handed me the phone. He opened the video and Lu Ruyan's figure appeared on the screen. The highlight and beauty filters were turned up to the maximum, enhancing her appearance by 2 levels. Moments later, Lu Ruyan, clad in a skirt that barely covered her body, started a suggestive dance, swaying and making some insinuating gestures with her hands, wearing an expression of intoxication on her face. No wonder she had amassed 200,000 followers so quickly. With such generous content, it would be strange if men didn't like it. The dance was rather risque, and it was understandable that the elderly couldn't accept it, which explained why Grandma was so angry. Lu Ruyan was scolded by Grandma until she looked thoroughly dejected and quickly begged for mercy, saying that she had only danced that kind of dance once. Are you sure it was only once? I have several videos, Suzuki said. Grandma's face turned livid with anger. Come with me. With the situation in such a mess, Lu Ruyan had no face to stay any longer and left in humiliation. Grandpa and Grandma walked away, cursing as they went. You planned this, I whispered to Suzuki. He nodded and told me that Lu Ruyan started her live broadcast at 9 p.m. and would perform normal dances before 11 p.m., but after 11 p.m., she would do suggestive dances. The video he had intercepted was of her dancing in the early morning. He had calculated that Grandma wouldn't be able to tolerate it and thus showed it to her. Just as I was about to praise him for being clever, Suzuki's devilish voice rang in my ear. Hurry up and announce that you'll marry me in the future. Damn it. Eventually, I gritted my teeth and, when Grandpa and Grandma asked, publicly announced that Suzuki would be my husband in the future. The family was extremely happy. After the red envelope incident and then dealing with Aunt's family, Mom had already regarded Suzuki as her own son and couldn't wait for me to get a marriage license with him the next day. Dad drank with Suzuki, praising him as a good son-in-law. Even Uncle showed great favor towards him. By the way, Uncle said, I think Suzuki looks very familiar. Have I seen him somewhere? Suzuki blinked and said, maybe we met by chance on the road. I'm quite handsome, so Uncle has a deep impression of me. The family burst into laughter, while I was left unnoticed and became a mere bystander. Looking at Suzuki talking eloquently, a light bulb went off in my head. I sensed something amiss. He had prepared such sufficient evidence against Lu Ruyan, and was able to join my family so quickly. Everything seemed to follow a natural course, yet it had developed too smoothly. Thinking back on some previous events, I gradually came to my senses. Suzuki was playing a big game. His target was me. He had always been saying that Lu Ruyan was a green tea girl in front of me, but when I thought carefully, his actions were no less green tea than Lu Ruyan's. He was the real scheming green tea guy. Time went back a few days. When I was in a relationship with Suzuki, Lu Ruyan would occasionally cause trouble for me, so I would complain about her in front of Suzuki. Suzuki constantly comforted me and offered me suggestions. A few days ago when I wanted to go home, I hadn't planned to take Suzuki with me at first. He circled around me like a puppy for a long time and then suddenly said, "Why don't you take me home with you?" "Why?" I was surprised. Suzuki said with determination, "If you go back, Lu Ruyan and your aunt will surely provoke you. If you take me with you, I can help you fight back against them." I shook my head and said no. The reason was simple. Having a boyfriend and taking a boyfriend home were two different things. Taking a boyfriend to meet my parents would be very troublesome if we were to break up in the future. I didn't want to set a trap for myself. Suzuki continued to coax me. "Lu Ruyan likes to snatch your boyfriends. If I go home with you, she will surely make a move on me. Then I'll piss her off." I was immediately tempted, but then I thought that I couldn't let my rivalry with Lu Ruyan harm my future, so I resisted the temptation and shook my head. Seeing that I still wouldn't budge, Suzuki, with a wronged look on his handsome face, pursed his thin lips, and dejectedly helped me pack my luggage, clean the house, and then went to the kitchen to cook for me. As a result, he accidentally cut his finger, and blood spilled all over the place. I was so scared that I quickly drove him to the hospital. While he was being bandaged in the hospital, he pitifully begged me to take him back to my hometown. Looking at his bleeding finger, I softened my heart for a moment and agreed to his request. Now, when I recalled all these things, I strongly suspected no, I was almost certain that it was Suzuki's trick. His cooking skills and knife work were very good. He had never cut his finger before. Why did he suddenly cut it that day? He deliberately got injured first to arouse my pity and make me agree to take him home. Then, taking advantage of my desire to strike back at Lu Ruyan, he made a covert move and infiltrated my family, gradually winning over everyone. These actions were no less green tea than Lu Ruyan's. On the surface he seemed harmless, but secretly he was full of schemes. Thinking back to when he courted me, he said he loved sports and often sent me photos of him playing ball, sweating all over. He had to lift his jersey to wipe the sweat, revealing his beautiful 8-pack abs. I was immediately attracted. Occasionally, he would also send photos of himself squatting with weights in the gym. The mirror behind him clearly reflected his firm and perky buttocks. I thought he didn't mean to be suggestive, but now I realized that he did it on purpose. He grasped my weakness for good-looking men and deliberately sent those ambiguous photos to fluster me, while still looking as innocent as a big puppy. What a master. I admit defeat. It's not entirely my fault for being stupid. I had only seen female green tea girls. How could I have known that men could be green too? After staying at home for 3 days, Suzuki and I returned to City S. Lu Ruyan was also traveling with us. While waiting in the airport lounge, Suzuki and I were sitting in a corner talking. Suddenly, his phone rang, and the words Green Tea Girl were displayed on the screen. I was still wondering who Green Tea Girl could be when Suzuki answered the phone. "Brother Moo, my foot is sprained. I can't walk. Come and help me, please." Lu Ruyan's coquettish voice came through. "I'm next to the bathroom." Ying ying. Lu Ruyan's behavior was completely a provocation to me. Presumably, after suffering a setback a few days ago, she wanted to get back at me through Suzuki. Just as I was about to get angry, Suzuki said, "Ching Ching, she's not worth ruining your mood over. I'll handle it." Suzuki stood up and, at a price of 100 yuan per person, hired 4 middle-aged women and walked into the bathroom. They forcefully carried Lu Ruyan to the waiting room. "I can walk by myself," Lu Ruyan cried and struggled under the watchful eyes of everyone. Suzuki held her down. "No, your foot is sprained. You can't walk." I almost burst into tears from laughter. With this move, Suzuki made Lu Ruyan completely bugan act up during the journey back to the city. However, Lu Ruyan was a competitive and extremely stubborn person. She couldn't believe that with her looks she couldn't win over Suzuki. If she couldn't, it would prove that she was inferior to me, which she couldn't accept. About a month later, when Suzuki was on a business trip, he suddenly forwarded a chat screenshot to me. "Honey, Lu Ruyan sent me a message. How should I reply?" I had just finished an interview at a listed company. I opened the picture. Lu Ruyan was sitting on the bed with her 2 white and tender legs slightly apart. The chat content was, "Brother, my leg got hurt from cycling today. Look, it hurts so much." I enlarged the picture and saw a small bruise on Lu Ruyan's knee. I almost laughed to death. "Playing this green tea game with me? I can play it too." I sent Suzuki a picture of myself in a camisole and said sweetly, "Do as you like. Don't make my heart hurt when you come back. Okay?" After a while, Suzuki replied to me. He photoshopped the bruise on Lu Ruyan's leg away and sent the picture back saying, "There, I've cured it for you. Don't always spread your legs. Maybe it's because you always spread your legs that you fell while cycling." After replying to Lu Ruyan, Suzuki said to me in a strange tone, "Is Lu Ruyan out of her mind? I treated her like that, and she's still seducing me." I sneered. "She won't give up until she gets what I like. She's not willing to admit defeat." Moments later, Suzuki forwarded another chat screenshot from Lu Ruyan. Lu Ruyan was swearing, using such vulgar language that it was astonishing. She called Suzuki a scumbag over and over again, as if Suzuki had done her a great wrong. It seemed that after being rejected many times, she finally couldn't help but show her true colors. How dare she mess with my boyfriend? Does she think I'm dead? I directly sent the chat screenshot to the family group, saying, "Aunt and Lu Ruyan are secretly seducing my boyfriend. Have they no shame?" As soon as I sent it, the family group exploded. Aunt hurriedly scolded me in the group. "You two actually made public someone else's chat records. How vicious." Before I could speak, Suzuki sent several videos in the group. One was the suggestive dance video he had shown Grandma before. One was a video of Lu Ruyan flirting with a wealthy client in her clipped voice, and he also sent all the previous chat records of Lu Ruyan trying to seduce him and speaking ill of me. He warned, "If you continue to cause trouble for Ching Ching, I'll post all these pictures online." I'm sure Lu Ruyan will become even more famous. So ruthless. Aunt immediately didn't dare to say a word. With irrefutable evidence, Grandma couldn't sit still first. It was said that she called Aunt over and gave her a good scolding. She also called Lu Ruyan and scolded her severely. Lu Ruyan's reputation among the relatives was completely ruined. At Grandma's request, we didn't make the videos and chat records public online, thus saving the family's face. From then on, Aunt didn't dare to show off anymore, and Lu Ruyan no longer caused trouble. Mom and I had a peaceful time for a while. When Suzuki returned from his business trip, as soon as we met, he asked, "Honey, did I perform well?" I nodded happily. He pressed his luck and moved closer to me, saying in my ear, "Honey, whenever other women seduce me, I show you the chat records. In the future, you should also stick to moral principles like me." "Definitely," I said guiltily. In fact, yesterday a junior sent me a photo of his abs. I rejected his confession, but the photo was really nice, so I secretly saved it. "Really? Then how about we exchange phones? Just for 2 hours," he said with a smile, taking out the bag I had been longing for recently and placing it in front of me. Okay, I was lured by the bag and readily agreed. Then I made an excuse to go to the bathroom to delete the junior's chat records. I checked my messages again, deleted some strange confession messages, and hid some inappropriate photos. Then I went out and pretended to be generous and handed him my phone. "Here." At noon, Suzuki took me to a high-end restaurant for dinner. During the meal, Suzuki's phone kept ringing and so did mine. I became more and more nervous. Checking chat records and such was really scary. After dinner, Suzuki slowly took out my phone. I was very flustered. Clearly, I hadn't done anything wrong. I quickly opened Suzuki's phone to check the chat records, taking the initiative to look for anything inappropriate. But there was nothing. It was all work-related information. I looked at the pink phone in Suzuki's hand with difficulty. If my eyes could turn into a laser, I would burn my phone to a cinder. Suzuki held the phone for a while, looked up at me, and instead of opening it, he directly handed it back to me. I was stunned. He clasped his hands and said gently and sincerely, "I trust Qingqing. If someone chases Qingqing, Qingqing will take the initiative to tell me, right?" Suzuki didn't even look at my phone. I was immediately touched and guilty. Since he was so generous, of course I had to be honest. So, I took the initiative to confess that the junior had chased me, emphasizing that I had firmly rejected him. Suzuki nodded slightly. During the meal my phone kept ringing. It was the HR manager of the company I had just joined trying to flirt with me. In front of Suzuki, I sternly refused and blocked him. I also took out the hidden photo of the junior's abs and deleted it in front of him. Suzuki's face turned a bit dark, and the corner of his mouth twitched. He tried to calm down and said, "That junior's abs are not as good as mine. I also have abs. I'll show you enough when we get back." My face turned bright red, and I sat back in my chair in embarrassment, lowering my head to admit my mistake. Suzuki propped his chin up and said sadly, "That junior called me yesterday to challenge me, saying that he was going to chase you. But I believe Qingqing definitely won't let me down. No wonder he suddenly proposed to exchange phones. So this had happened. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I won't dare anymore." I apologized frantically. "That junior is a scheming boy. He completely doesn't consider the difficult situation you'll be in." Suzuki showed a pure smile. "Unlike me, who only knows how to feel sorry for Qingqing. As long as you apologize, I will choose to forgive you." At this moment, he exuded a divine radiance all over. For some reason, I felt a shiver down my spine and quickly explained, "I only like looking at pictures of handsome men. I don't like them." "Really? I believe Qingqing," he said gently. I heaved a sigh of relief. When we got home, Suzuki went crazy. I was forced to swear that I would only love him from then on. Finally, I couldn't bear it anymore and kicked him out of bed. Only then did he stop. After that, he clung to me tightly. He followed me wherever I went, for fear that I would be lured away. One day, Suzuki and I went to visit our alma mater. By the lake, we met Lu Ruyan and a handsome boy walking towards us. When Lu Ruyan saw me, she triumphantly took the boy's arm and said, "Cousin, look at my boyfriend. Handsome, right? Handsome men are everywhere. Some men shouldn't be so self-righteous." Suzuki and I ignored her. However, Lu Ruyan's boyfriend's eyes lit up. He rushed in front of Suzuki and said excitedly, "Mr. Suzuki, can you sign for me? I'm your fan." Lu Ruyan, who had just called Suzuki self-righteous, watched as Suzuki and the little boyfriend exchanged phone numbers. We wanted to climb the back mountain. The little boyfriend insisted on getting close to the god, and without any sense of propriety, dragged a sullen-faced Lu Ruyan along. The back mountain was steep. Soon I was out of breath from exhaustion. Suzuki squatted down and said, "I'll carry you." I happily jumped onto his back. Suzuki carried me up the steps. His strong body and enduring physical strength made Lu Ruyan's eyes turn red with envy. She shouted, "Squat down. I want to be carried too." Her little boyfriend squatted down with a pale face and painfully carried her up the mountain. But halfway up, he lost his footing, and they both screamed and fell to the ground. Lu Ruyan broke her leg and cried, pounding on her little boyfriend. "Break up. Break up." Lu Ruyan was hospitalized with a broken leg, and couldn't do live broadcasts. She also broke up with her little boyfriend. It was said that she cried every day and put the blame on me. But as soon as she said that, she was scolded by my mother. Lu Ruyan was unwilling and kept sending messages to Suzuki, spreading rumors about me. Let me tell you, she had plastic surgery. Her breasts are fake. I don't care. She's not as good looking as me. Why do you like her and not me? Why don't you look in the mirror before you speak? Ugly people make more trouble. Lu Ruyan was furious. Men are really shallow. They only look at appearance. She's had a lot of boyfriends. I'm telling you, I've been trying to seduce you before for your own good. Because she's my cousin, I was too embarrassed to speak ill of her. Now that things have come to this, I have to tell you. She's like a broken down bus. I don't care about her past. I only care that you're making trouble with your ugliness and using foul language. Lu Ruyan was shocked. She's not a virgin. Don't you programmers like virgins the most? Suzuki said. Ching Ching is a nice girl. Don't spread rumors. I love all of her, including her soul. Besides, it's the 21st century. Can we stop talking about virginity? This is slander. I've called the police. Lu Ruyan didn't believe that he would call the police. However, Suzuki really took me to the police station. When we got to the police station, I learned what had happened. Suzuki hadn't shown me Lu Ruyan's foul language, thinking that I would be angry if I saw it. Only when the police asked for evidence did he take it out. I was so angry that I was shaking and called to scold Lu Ruyan. Only then did Lu Ruyan panic. She rushed to the police station on crutches. Under the mediation of the police, Lu Ruyan cried and bent down to apologize to me. Only then was the matter settled. When we left the police station, I couldn't help but laugh. Actually, I didn't care about the swear words. The more vicious she scolded, the more it proved that she was at her wit's end. And now that she had a criminal record, her future path would be difficult. I didn't tell my parents about this. I didn't want to make them angry and harm their health. After a while on the weekend, I went shopping at the CBD with my newly acquainted colleagues. My phone rang. When I answered it, it was actually a call from Lu Ruyan. As soon as I picked up, "My dear cousin, where are you?" Lu Ruyan's voice was a bit smug. "I'm shopping." I didn't want to talk to her. "Look ahead." I looked up blankly and saw Lu Ruyan standing not far away, taking the arm of a middle-aged man. "This is Mr. Wang, my top fan." Lu Ruyan walked up to me and introduced him triumphantly. "Mr. Wang runs a company. His assets are in the hundreds of millions." I blinked, not quite understanding what she meant. Lu Ruyan said, "What's the point of young and handsome guys? Rich uncles know how to cherish people. I'll be a rich man's wife in the future. And you can only struggle in the basement with young people." My colleagues stared at her in surprise. I felt ashamed for Lu Ruyan. "Lu Ruyan," I frowned and said, "your family is at least middle class. You don't have to worry about food and clothing. Why do you want to degrade yourself and find such a person? And even if Suzuki has nothing, we don't have to live in the basement." Lu Ruyan sneered. "Your family is rich, so you always bully us. What's so great about having a little money? Let me tell you, I'll be Mrs. Wang soon. I'll be richer than you in the future. You can't compare with me." "We bully her?" I was speechless. I took the hands of my two colleagues and quickly left. I didn't want to reason with her. It was pointless. When having dinner with my colleagues, I accidentally opened WeChat and found that my aunt, who had been silent for a long time, was actually showing off in the group. She said that Lu Ruyan had found a rich boyfriend in me and Suzuki, saying sarcastically, "Ching Ching and Suzuki aren't suitable, are they? So what if he has a monthly salary of 20,000 yuan? He's just working for others. Ching Ching surely won't marry beneath her, right? My Ruyan has married a man worth hundreds of millions. Ching Ching will surely find someone better." I was really angry because she was belittling Suzuki with a middle-aged balding uncle just because Suzuki didn't have money. I replied, "Aunt, love can't be measured by money. Suzuki and I love each other equally. There's no such thing as marrying beneath her. I don't feel like I'm at a loss being with him." Suzuki chimed in, "Ching Ching, I love you." Aunt taunted, "Hey, are you after Ching Ching's family's money? Whether I'm after money or not has nothing to do with you. Aunt, since you're so rich, it seems you're going to pay back all the money you owe the relatives, right?" With this one-sentence kill, Aunt immediately fell silent. Pay back the money? Aunt pretended to be dead. I held back my laughter. 2 days later, Suzuki suddenly posted a document in the group. This document showed that Lu Ruyan's boyfriend, Mr. Wang, had been divorced twice, had 3 children, and 5 shell companies under his name. We thought Aunt would back down. But Aunt said, he actually has 5 companies. Everyone was completely speechless. We didn't know if she was really proud of it or just being stubborn. Aunt said, "This weekend we're holding an engagement banquet. You all have to come." With her making such a ruckus, the most embarrassed one was my mother. My mother was a typical example of a sparrow turning into a phoenix. Her original family was not well off, but in the end, she was able to marry into a wealthy family. The relatives on my father's side were all rich or noble, while the relatives on my mother's side were very ordinary. After my mother married my father, she shared joys and sorrows with him and was very polite. But Aunt was always resentful, thinking that my mother had snatched her blind date opportunity. Over the years, she had targeted my mother everywhere. My mother had endured it again and again. For the sake of my grandparents, she got my uncle-in-law into my uncle's company and often helped Aunt's family. But she was still ungrateful. This time my mother couldn't bear it anymore and said harshly, "Li Chunmei, if Lu Ruyan marries Mr. Wang, we'll break off relations from now on." "Break off relations then," Aunt said fearlessly. Maybe she thought that Lu Ruyan would marry into a wealthy family in the future, and wouldn't need my mother's help. But then she added, "The maternal family can't lose face for Lu Ruyan. We should at least contribute 100,000 yuan for the engagement banquet." I was extremely speechless. I didn't want to attend the engagement banquet. But Suzuki persuaded me. "Go. After all, we're relatives." I thought he was right, so I went to this break-off relations banquet. At noon, Suzuki said that he had to work overtime temporarily, and wouldn't go home with me. At 7 p.m., I took a plane back to my hometown. When I got home, my mother hugged me and cried. My grandmother called me and asked me to persuade my mother not to be too judging. I refused. Grandma, it's Aunt and Rian who chose their own path. I don't believe you're not clear about the things they've done. Over the years, you've always taken their side, which has made them more and more excessive. Grandma said, the two children are both dear to me. I can't just watch one live well and the other live poorly. Isn't it right for an older sister to help a younger sister? I was speechless. Grandma uncle-in-law's job was introduced by my mother. When they bought a house, my mother paid half of the down payment and also gave them her used car. Every New Year and festival, my mother surely gave 18,000 yuan. Is this not helping? Over the years, for Lu Rian's schooling and training classes, my mother has paid at least 100,000 yuan. What more do you want? Grandma said. Is that your mother's money? It's your father's money. Back then, I asked your aunt to take care of your father. It was your mother who snatched the opportunity from her, and was able to marry your father and become prosperous. All these should have been enjoyed by your aunt. I was so shocked that my mouth dropped open. Back then, my grandmother was hired as a nurse in the hospital to take care of my father, who had a broken bone. My grandmother had something urgent to attend to and asked her two daughters to take care of him for 2 days. At that time, she called for my aunt to go, but my aunt was reluctant. As the older sister, my mother volunteered to take care of my father. As a result, the two fell in love, got married, and had children. For so many years, not only did aunt think that my mother owed her, but even grandma thought that my mother owed aunt. Ridiculous. I took my phone and walked into my father's study and told him the whole story. Dad, back then when you had a broken bone and were hospitalized, if aunt had taken care of you, would you have married her? My father looked confused and blurted out, how could that be? If taking care of me could make me marry someone, I should have married the nanny at home. Besides, if your aunt asked me to marry her, I'd have to be crazy. I quickly said, Dad, my phone is on speaker. Grandma is still listening. My father quickly coughed twice and put on a refined look to greet Grandma. Unfortunately, the words spoken were like water spilled. They couldn't be taken back. Grandma didn't say anything and hung up the phone. On Saturday, Aunt's family held an engagement banquet in a high-end hotel. Uncle-in-law's face was extremely dark. He didn't want Lu Rian to marry Mr. Wang. His job was introduced by my mother. Aunt had a hot temper, and he had no status at home. He simply couldn't persuade Aunt. The mother-daughter pair walked into the resplendent hotel. Aunt, Lu Rian, and Mr. Wang were beaming. The relatives on both sides were present. Aunt triumphantly introduced Mr. Wang. Lu Rian held her head high, as if she was afraid that we wouldn't see the huge diamond necklace around her neck. She smiled at me and said, Cousin, I'm the first to marry into a wealthy family. You're older than me. Be careful of being played with by a handsome man and ending up with nothing. I rolled my eyes. Becoming a stepmother at a young age. How wonderful. Lu Rian's face changed. I was too lazy to argue with her and walked straight into the hotel to wait for Uncle to arrive. The portly Mr. Wang's eyes lit up. He quickly bowed and greeted Uncle, calling out enthusiastically, Mr. Zhao. Uncle smiled and shook hands with him. Aunt came up and said, We're all relatives. Don't be so polite. She had always fawned over Uncle and had a very thick skin. The guests at several tables were seated. Just as Lu Rian was feeling proud, the door of the private room suddenly opened. Suzuki, dressed in a suit, strode into the private room. I didn't expect Suzuki to show up and stood up in surprise. Just as I was about to walk over, Mr. Wang, who was chatting with Uncle next to me, looked up and saw Suzuki. He rushed in front of Suzuki with lightning speed, trembling with excitement. Young Master Lin, you're here too. It's a great honor. A great honor. His obsequious look was completely different from his arrogant attitude when facing us. Young Master Lin, I was dumbfounded. Everyone looked at each other in astonishment. The huge room fell into silence. Uncle next to me suddenly said, Ah, I remember now. No wonder Suzuki looked familiar. It turned out that he was the second young master of the Lin family. Uncle also stood up with a smile and stepped forward to shake hands with Suzuki. Uncle, you're being too polite. Don't call me the second young master of the Lin family. Just call me Suzuki. Suzuki shook hands with him neither humbly nor arrogantly. My aunt and Lu Rian's faces turned ashen. Young Master Lin? What young Master Lin? Lu Rian stammered. Uncle said, the second young master of the Lin group in City S. A few years ago, when I went to City S, I met young Master Lin once at the Lin family's residence. It was so long ago that I didn't think of it immediately. Suzuki walked over and sat beside me, exuding charm and looking handsome. He was like a spotlight, attracting everyone's attention. My aunt's so-called golden bachelor, Mr. Wang, served Suzuki tea and water like a sycophant, being so attentive as if Suzuki were his grandfather. The expressions on my aunt and Lu Rian's faces were as unpleasant as if they had eaten a fly. I felt a bit pleased and also a bit worried. If Suzuki was a wealthy young master from a prominent family, I couldn't ask him to sweep the floor, cook for me, or drive me around in an indulgent way. What a pity. I'd rather he was an ordinary programmer. Anyway, my family is wealthy, and I don't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of my life. I don't need to marry into a wealthy family. My father's relatives are all business people. When they heard that Suzuki was from a wealthy family, they came over one after another to offer toasts and chat. The originally good engagement banquet turned into a commercial flattery event. It wasn't Suzuki's fault. The main reason was that the groom-to-be was extremely enthusiastic. He almost forgot that he was having an engagement. He chatted with Suzuki and Uncle very warmly, leaving Lu Rian aside as if she were an insignificant person. Seeing their expressions, I felt so embarrassed for them that I could have dug a Barbie castle. At the end of the banquet, my mother announced on the spot that she would break off relations with my aunt and no longer care about her family's affairs. Mr. Wang's expression was one of great shock. We didn't care what they thought and left the hotel without looking back. After we got home and Suzuki's identity was revealed, both my parents were a bit reserved, and I wasn't too happy either. If I had known Suzuki's identity earlier, I would never have fallen in love with him. There are so many rules in wealthy families and I don't like that. When there is too much money, it doesn't necessarily increase happiness. Instead, it can become a constraint. It's better to have a little money and live a carefree life without worrying about food and clothing. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier, Suzuki apologized to me and explained. I don't plan to inherit the company. I just receive dividends from the shares. I just want to write programs and do what I want. My eldest brother is there to take care of the family business. My parents don't have any demands on me either. He said sincerely. I don't want to manage the company either. It's too troublesome. That's just like me, my father said with a beaming smile. I just follow behind my elder brother and live an easy life. My father is a man without much ambition. Otherwise, he wouldn't have married my mother, who was a nurse. But I think he has great wisdom hidden in his simplicity. If he had insisted on competing for power and profit with Uncle, he might have been eliminated long ago. My uncle is not a philanthropist. Back then, Uncle worked hard to expand the small company of my grandparents and finally made it big and strong. My father took the initiative to withdraw and only took shares, never interfering in the company's affairs. Uncle was grateful to him and took the initiative to allocate assets for my father to manage. The two families got along very well. My father said that Uncle was extremely intelligent, ambitious, and decisive in his actions. Yet he also valued relationships. With such an elder brother, there was no need to compete with him for a little petty gain. Once the other party turned hostile, he might very well eliminate himself. It was better to be a wealthy second generation who was indifferent to worldly strife. I thought the same way, Suzuki said excitedly. My father immediately felt like he had found a kindred spirit. He held Suzuki's hand with tears in his eyes. I rolled my eyes secretly. It's true that Suzuki doesn't want to inherit the company, but he is definitely not as innocent as my silly father. This guy is very cunning. From the way he tricked me step by step, I can tell that he is scheming and insidious. Sure enough, in just one night, he dispelled my parents' concerns and became my father's friend despite the age gap, and their relationship became even deeper. This green tea guy really has high skills. As we were talking, the topic shifted towards marriage again. I quickly interrupted. Let's talk about it later. After attending Lu Rian's engagement banquet, we went back. Not long after we returned to City S, my mother told me that Lu Rian had called off the engagement and didn't want to marry Mr. Wang anymore. It was because they found out that Mr. Wang was all show and had very few assets. Moreover, half of his assets belonged to his ex-wife and 3 children. Lu Rian wouldn't gain anything by marrying him. Mr. Wang immediately turned hostile, found people to cause trouble in Lu Rian's live broadcast room, and also released Lu Rian's negative information and some very revealing photos on the internet. His methods were so ruthless that Lu Rian would never be able to hold her head up again, and would never be able to marry into a good family. Lu Rian was soon banned by the platform due to the negative impact, and would never make a comeback. After a while, one day Suzuki and I were snuggling on the balcony, looking at the moon. Lu Rian suddenly called Suzuki and asked, "Why don't you like me? Why don't you want me? In what way am I not as good as Zhao Qingqing?" Suzuki said coldly, "You're not as good as her in any way. In my heart, every aspect of Qingqing shines brightly." Lu Rian cried and asked, If you had met me first, would you have fallen in love with me?" Suzuki raised his eyebrows. "Wake up. Before I met Qingqing, it's not like I had never seen a woman. Why would I choose you? Are you out of your mind?" "Suzuki, I'm already very miserable, and you still talk to me like this." Lu Rian burst into tears. Suzuki said, "Everyone in the world has some hardships. Stop playing the victim. Besides, you brought this upon yourself. You can't blame others. Just because you're miserable, do I have to let you have your way and coax you? Who do you think you are?" Lu Rian cried. "I really like you. I like myself too. Thank you. Just because you like me doesn't mean I have to agree to you. What kind of logic is that?" Lu Rian wailed. I almost burst out laughing. Lu Rian is just like her mother. They both think that if they had met Suzuki or my father earlier, they could have married into a wealthy family and lived a luxurious life. Even at this moment, she is still trying to seduce Suzuki. How ridiculous. I grabbed Suzuki's phone. "Rian, do you know why Suzuki likes me?" I asked. "Why?" "Because I have a better figure and I'm prettier than you. For people like Lu Rian and my aunt, if you tell them that Suzuki likes me because of my personality, intelligence, and talent, they will definitely not believe it. They will surely think that Suzuki values appearance and figure. So I just went along with their thinking. Hang up the phone and block her." I returned the phone to Suzuki. "Yes, ma'am." "Is your boyfriend reliable?" Suzuki asked expectantly. I nodded. "Reliable. Can you marry me?" "No." I refused. I didn't expect that Lu Rian actually went for plastic surgery again and even had breast augmentation despite the risks. She was already a plastic surgery beauty. In the past, because she was young and recovered well with makeup on, she still looked natural. However, this time she had too many operations. Being too eager for quick success, the result was terrifying. When my mother sent me the photos, I couldn't believe it was her. She looked completely like a cheap plastic doll. Her nose and eyes, in pursuit of a Western-style look, were completely ruined and could no longer be repaired. She also had her bones ground, and her chin was as sharp as a awl. You would be shocked if you saw her in real life. My mother sighed. She even had breast augmentation. Why did she have such a surgery? The after effects are too serious. She will suffer in a few years. I said expressionlessly, it's her own choice. By the way, your uncle-in-law and your aunt are getting a divorce. Over the years, your uncle-in-law has been working under uncle. Because of Li Chuanmei's making trouble, he could only endure. Now uncle wants him to leave, and when he goes back, he will divorce Li Chunmei. That's also their choice. We won't interfere. We have already broken off relations with them and won't care about them anymore. Your grandmother hasn't been speaking up for her much recently either. By the way, my mother asked, when are you going to get engaged? I felt embarrassed and touched the diamond ring on my finger, saying in a low voice, Suzuki and I got our marriage certificate yesterday on Shishi Festival. Recently, Suzuki used all kinds of seduction methods, such as showing his attractiveness, treating me to delicious food, and giving me bags. Plus I was ill and he took care of me meticulously. I was so touched that I got the marriage certificate with him without thinking clearly. When I came to my senses, I realized that I had been tricked by this green tea guy again. Unfortunately, once the decision is made, there is no turning back. I got married at a young age just like this. The end.